This podcast is sponsored by Talkspace. You know when you're really stressed or not feeling so great about your life or about yourself? Talking to someone who understands can really help. But who is that person? How do you find them? Where do you even start? Talkspace. Talkspace makes it easy to get the support you need. With Talkspace, you can go online, answer a few questions about your preferences, and be matched with a therapist. And because you'll meet your therapist online, you don't have to take time off work or arrange childcare. You'll meet on your schedule, wherever you feel most at ease. If you're depressed, stressed, struggling with a relationship, or if you want some counseling for you and your partner, or just need a little extra one-on-one support, Talkspace is here for you. Plus, Talkspace works with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. No insurance? No problem. Now get $80 off of your first month with promo code SPACE80 when you go to Talkspace.com. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com. Save $80 with code SPACE80 at Talkspace.com.
See, I'm encouraging you to do that thing on your list.
Oh, I see what you're doing.
Yeah.
Man, you know what, man? You are a good fucking coach.
That's right.
You're playing three-dimensional chess with me, and I don't see this shit.
But most chess is three-dimensional.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Is it? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think just reality, the real world.
Okay,
is just three-dimensional.
Okay.
It's just,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
This episode is made possible by our theater, the Dork Lord himself, Jim Sfasha, and our therapy partners, Dirty B and Pickett.
Pickett!
From fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada, this is Pod Therapy. Real people, real problems, and real therapists. You can submit your questions anonymously at podtherapy.net or email us at podtherapyguys@gmail.com. And now, broadcasting from the churn, that's Jim, that's Whitney, I'm Nick. It's time for some Pod Therapy.
Colonel Jim, if you please.
I will never say that.
If you please.
And salute.
I have already started shopping at the Kentucky Colonel's store. There's an online store. Exclusive.
KFC?
Only Kentucky Colonels can shop at that store. They'll
It's called
stop you.
KFC.
No, KFC is not it. KFC doesn't even have the word Colonel in it. It's Kentucky Fried Chicken. And my colleague and predecessor, Colonel Harlan Sanders, who was only a colonel in the same way that I am a colonel, started the company. So, we
You just hit him.
We are equals. No,
I can't. That's...
we agreed. We started this
rules.
a long time ago.
Nick,
we said
hit
a
him.
few things. No, don't do it. Hey, everybody. Welcome
Good
to
job,
Pod Therapy.
Yeah.
Excited to have you with us. We've got some great questions on the show today. Don't forget about the extra hangout at patreon.com/therapy. You can hear all about my childhood nudist resort that I went to in the summer of Florida.
Totally
It's
appropriate.
beautiful. And I learned a lot. Learned a lot about life. Learned a lot about aquatic sports.
About your body.
Very interesting about my body. About reptiles.
Yeah.
So
much education.
true coming of age story.
Did he ever talk about the time he did sex ed in school?
Oh, Lord.
And
And they were like, please, you have to leave.
he passed out.
I did not pass out, asshole. I threw up
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. He threw up.
during the girl part when they were explaining the
There's
uterus
so much wrong
and the
with
ovaries.
this right now.
They had like the
Why?
overhead. You remember those overheads?
Yes.
So they had the overhead projector, and they put up the diagram, and I just fucking blew chunks.
Whoa, wait. I've heard this story before. I thought that you threw up watching a video of like giving birth.
No, it was the overhead.
You threw up because of a diagram.
Yeah, man. They were like using big words, and it was really scary. And I was just like, "Fuck!" And I just blew up. Summer of 8th grade, man. The day I became a man.
Christian suppression.
Yeah, thank you. In my defense, I was sure that this was a satanic attack. You know,
That's true. I
was
believe
trying
that.
to keep away the
this
devil.
This makes sense now.
Right? Yeah. When you
Makes
put it in
sense.
that
the devil.
context, it does
Y'all
start
don't know
to make sense.
the Southern Christian.
Oh, yeah.
Southern Baptist, man. Yeah.
Southern
I was
Baptist.
just keeping the devil away.
Yeah.
Dirty, dirty girls.
Yeah.
And I had eaten like powdered sugar brownies for
That
breakfast.
doesn't matter.
You're an idiot.
I think that was part of it. I just, oh God, I'll never forget that day.
That was part.
I
Sorry,
was
my
so
timer just went
embarrassed.
off to call Jim an idiot.
Yeah, that's right. He just sets it periodically to
there's
see
a
if it syncs
buzz.
with reality. Always seems to work. Anyway, patreon.com/therapy. Come join the hangout and support mental health. We've got some great questions today, and we're leading off the order with values in therapy. I like this one. Dear pod therapists, and life coach Jacob. Thank you for taking my letter. I absolutely love this podcast. I'm reaching out to seek your insight regarding an area I've been grappling with in my recent therapy experiences, namely the emphasis on values. I understand that many therapeutic models, such as acceptance and commitment therapy, use values-rich language to help clients navigate mental illness and stress. However, I find myself struggling with this approach for a couple of reasons. First, overwhelming number of values. Whenever I engage in values exercises, I end up identifying an overwhelming number of values that matter to me, which leaves me feeling paralyzed. For example, in the ACT model, I'm asked to list values that guide me in areas like work, or love, playing, or health. Let's consider love. I find myself valuing over a dozen principles, such as compassion, generosity, independence, forgiveness, and self-compassion. This often leads to a sense of conflict. At the end of a long day, for instance, when a friend needs to vent, but I'm exhausted, I feel torn. I value compassion, listening, validating, caring, but also self-compassion, resting, or exercising when I'm depleted. No matter which value I prioritize, I'm left feeling frustrated because it seems like I'm always sacrificing one important value for another, leaving me feeling as though I can't truly succeed. Second, values or distorted beliefs. I'm also concerned that some of my so-called values might actually be distorted beliefs in disguise. In the realm of work, for instance, I value excellence. However, I recognize from previous therapy and self-reflection that I have an unrelenting standards schema, a fancy way of saying I struggle with perfectionism. When I let excellence guide my work choices, as ACT suggests for increased life satisfaction, I find myself slipping into perfectionistic tendencies that feed into my anxiety and existential depression. With these challenges in mind, I'd be incredibly grateful for your perspective on the following. Is it possible to have too many values? If so, how can one effectively navigate this? Could some of my values, such as excellence in the context of work, be counterproductive or even harmful? How might I address this without abandoning the value altogether? I deeply value your expertise and would appreciate any guidance or resources you might recommend. Thank you so much for considering my questions. I look forward to hearing your thoughts. Thank you, Anonymous.
Actually, Morgan Spurlock, the documentarian, covered this extensively in his documentary Supersize Me. He talked about value meals throughout that entire movie.
That was almost the whole point of it.
So I think just watch that movie and learn about value meals, and you'll be in good shape.
Thanks, Anonymous. Take care. Good luck, and sponsor the show.
Which value meal's the best, though? There's too many.
I mean, it just means you have options.
Do they still have
two,
that?
I think it's
Is supersizing a thing still? Can you still supersize the meal?
No, they stopped that after that.
I think
documentary.
Because Wendy's had
seriously,
one.
I think they did. They got rid of it.
Wendy's had the biggie size. It was like you could biggie.
Oh,
that's
yes,
right.
Remember
you
that?
would.
I don't remember if Burger King had one.
I believe it was king size.
Oh, fuck. Ah, damn it. Of course it was.
Yeah.
This is dumb. I'm just upset at myself. I walked into it.
This is an interesting concept. It reminds me of Peter and I just had this discussion the other day because he's in a group training with other cohorts of his, and they were asked to pick out words from a list of 40 different words and what sticks out as your highest values. And people, the two highest ones that were chosen by most people in his group were family. And the other one was
looking cool in a leather jacket.
No, oh my gosh, I'm blanking on it.
It's one of my highest.
But
Reese's
they were
peanut butter cups.
in conflict with one another. I'm totally blanking on the word right
Being
now.
a badass.
Murdering families.
Yes, very murdery.
No,
It is in conflict.
But it was it was like ethics. I highly value ethics and my family.
Okay, or
But-
autonomy or something.
Yeah, but it was
Independence.
when it comes down to it, if it's up to your, if you have to choose between this very ethical decision in your family, what are you going to choose? You're going to choose your family, and you're going to be screw ethics.
Right.
Or an example of this might be Jim, if one of your children ended up murdering somebody.
Again, yeah.
Obviously,
Yeah,
again.
yeah.
I don't know what you did the first time,
First
but if
one
it
you get
happened
away
a
with.
second time.
Clark County School District has a,
Everybody gets one.
everybody gets one.
Happens once, shame on you.
Yeah. I mean, we are 51st in education for a reason.
Right, that's fair. Or like, or
'Cause of
just
the murders.
Because of the murders.
right? Or yeah, like we could stick with that, like human life. But say we were
Right.
in an extreme circumstance, you're going to choose your family
Of
over
course,
human
you're gonna
life.
help people.
And
Yeah.
so it's like at some point those values cross, and
Right.
you're like, oh, you have to kind of choose one. They can't both coexist
Yeah.
at all times. And this kind of like touches on that
Oh,
same
yeah.
idea where, like, how do we decide what our values are? How do we kind of structure them? And that's kind of what the writer's asking. Like, in my opinion, there are going to be some that are more important than others at different times. It depends on the situation. It depends
Right.
on what's going on in your life. Like, all of those things come into play when you're thinking, okay, this is a value. I'm using that in quotes. Like, this is a high value of mine. But how do we play
Yeah.
that out?
I was actually going to say something similar because, like, I used to do this exercise all the time in groups where I would have them write out their values, right? And then I would have them talk about their behaviors over the last year.
Oh, yeah.
Because ultimately it's like, if I want to know what someone values, I'm not going to ask them. You watch them.
Oh,
You know,
that is so true.
Yeah, because and think about like what limited resources we have available to us. Our two most limited resources are time and money.
Yes.
If I want to know what someone values, I don't ask them. I watch how do they spend their time and how do they spend their money.
Yeah.
Because those are finite resources, that means that we have to pick and choose. So where do I devote my time? Where do I devote my money? That shows what I value. In the same way, it's like a lot of like, we talk
Prostitutes
about
could be both.
Yes.
we talk
That's
about
time and money.
Time and money.
we talk about ethics in this clinical supervision course that I teach. And one of the things that we talk about is like, when it comes to an ethical dilemmas are not choices between a good decision and a bad decision,
Right.
because that's not a dilemma.
Not a dilemma. Yeah.
It's like,
Should I hit this pedestrian with my car or come to a full and complete stop?
it's like, it's not a dilemma.
I'm pulling my hair out on
Right.
this one.
Now, should I hit
Yeah.
this pedestrian with my car or should I hit this pedestrian with
Right.
my car?
It's the trolley
That's a
car.
dilemma.
The trolley dilemma.
The
yeah.
trolley car. Have you seen the meme of this? The trolley car?
there's a bunch of
There's
them,
a
but-
bunch of people tied to the thing, and there's like one person tied to the other one, and it's Thomas the train, and he's like, like gonna hit him, and like all the other trains like, dude, what the fuck's going on with Thomas? And he's like, what should I do? And they're like, neither. Like, you don't have to do
You
this.
can just
You
stop.
tied those people to the tracks.
But like, yeah, it's always like ethical dilemmas are choices between two ethical decisions that are in conflict.
Right.
Yeah.
Values are kind of the same way. It's like you have to really understand what you truly value, you put them in conflict and you have to choose.
Yeah. So, writer, there's a lot here that I want to touch on, but first, I love these exercises. I really like values exercises, and I do them a lot for a lot of different challenges and life direction navigation with people. And yeah, I like that you also mentioned ACT, a form of therapy what a lot of people use. So, I want to clarify a couple of things. First, you're doing everything right. And there's no problem with the values having a juxtaposition situation. We expect that. In fact, that's part of the exercise, is to allow these things to unfold. It's not to figure out what's your highest truth. It's to get into the complex nuances of life. One of the distortions that people often have that we catch in CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, is something called black and white thinking, right? Absolutism. It's always this or it's always that. But what values analysis helps suss out for most patients is starting to realize that it's very rarely black and white. There's all sorts of gradients here, and you've got to get into the complexity of your story. And so whenever you're sitting down and you're saying, hey, I value excellence at work, but I struggle with perfectionism. And when I look at my history, I understand that value in some ways is not organic to me. In some ways, the history of me having this need, this value, comes from some of my trauma. It comes from some of my past, some of my childhood. My friend, you're doing therapy.
Yeah.
That's excellent therapy. And if you say, well, then what's the correct answer? Oh, I don't know. I don't know, Anonymous. That's for you and I to discover together. And for you to wrestle with the complexity of, I have a desire to do excellent work. It suits me. I sit well with that. And yet I realize there's a tipping point where I become self-abusive and I feel like I cannot rest or be satisfied, and that is unhealthy for me. Excellent. I want you to get into the nuanced weeds of what percentage of this value is good for you, and what percentage of this value is an excessive expression of that value. So you're doing everything right by staring at that. I want you to get into the weeds of that. It's okay for these values to have these kinds of interplays, and you find yourself getting stuck between them and asking, hey, can these things actually coexist at the same time? And you mentioned having an overwhelming number of them. That's also a very honest thing, too. Whenever I do this exercise with people, I kind of do what Pete did.
Mm-hmm.
I give people a list of 30, and I have them pick 10,
Yeah.
and then I have them rank them. And the ranking thing is not to get to their final answer and figure out who they really are or whatever bullshit. It's to cause them to do what Anonymous is doing, to have to sit there and compare all these things that matter and ask, well, how would you prioritize these? And I want them to sit there and grind their teeth over it and run through simulations and ask who they are and where they got their ideas, because it really, for me, is just, it opens up therapeutic insight.
Oh, sure.
That's all I want.
Things they may not have thought about
That's
before.
it. I want to
Yeah.
look at this and go, why do you value excellence? Well, I tried, what does that look like in your life? Where does that get ahead of you? Where does that sometimes go the opposite way? Because every good thing can also go too far, right? Any too much of a medicine is a poison. So tell me more. So it's okay, in my opinion, writer, that you have so many different values and that you find them conflicting and that any one of them can be taken to an extreme where in some ways you look at it and say, hey, this is kind of a toxic idea that's kind of imprinted upon me, and now I look at it as a value. Where I think there can be some confusion is ACT and some of these other forms of therapy, they sometimes speak about values as if they are self-evident ways to live your life. Like, and that's a good start. Like, I do like, and I do this in my therapy work too, where I want my patients to use their values as their compass. To me, that's the markings on the map, especially when we're just kind of drifting through life and we're like, what direction should I go and what matters to me? Okay, let's start with what matters with you, right? Like, don't live your father's best life. Don't live what
Right.
America tells you to live. Let's figure out what is authentically valuable to you. What is a satisfying life? Those are your values. Then I want to wrestle with that, because just because these are your values doesn't mean they need to guide all your actions. It just means that they subjectively matter to you today.
Yeah.
And also keeping in mind that whatever you write down on that paper, Anonymous, that is a snapshot in time. I
Right.
mean, I tell people these are all written in pencil. If you'd have taken my values at 20 years old, those were different than 30. They'll be different at 40. These should be evolving over time. So we also don't want to pretend that these are written in concrete. This is etched in stone, and these are your north stars that from the path from which you must never deviate. You are always in conversation with these things. Life is always causing you to adjust your emphasis on these things, your priority on these things. So what I want for you, writer, is to identify these things and then to do the therapeutic work that you've already started, which is to unravel them and ask, why? Why does that have meaning to me? Why does that matter to me? Is this value my inner voice? Or is this somebody else's voice from my past that's told me I'm supposed to value this? I did this exercise with a patient once, and they listed religion as the highest thing. And I said, oh, wow, I didn't know you're a really religious guy. You had kind of mentioned it passively. And okay, now I know that this is like your highest thing. And he kind of like,
Well, now they throw it back at me.
well, and I go, well, is it your highest thing? And he goes,
It should
Jim,
be.
and he grew up in the same kind of culture you and I did, like Southern
Yeah.
Baptist kind of thing. And so he
Should
goes,
be.
I feel like it's supposed to be.
Yes.
I feel like I'm supposed to put that first, right? Growing up, they say, what's the highest thing? God first.
And if you
then
put
your
anything
wife,
else,
then
then what
your
does that
kids,
say about me? It's like that's the whole process.
then America, right? And so he was looking at it and he's like, I think I'm supposed to put that. And I was like, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
And now we're doing it. We're doing therapy, right?
Yeah.
Just from this one exercise,
Look
we
at
are
us
pulling
go.
this
More.
out.
That's how easy it is.
And
Now
we're
you're a
analyzing
therapist.
it, and we're asking, can you give yourself permission
Yeah.
to set this next to you, but not necessarily in the driver's seat? What would it look like to set that aside? Now that we're putting that in the passenger seat, what else is exciting to you? What else matters to you? And it was very liberating for him to say, okay, and it's not a bad thing to put this aside for a second. Like, not at all. Let's also think about what authentically matters to you if religion was over here for a second. And we can come
Yeah.
back to it. It still gets to come in the car, but like,
Yeah.
what else? That was huge.
Yeah.
So values work, writer, is a huge area. There's so much to explore. Nothing about this has been done wrong so far. At least that's what I'm hearing in the letter anyway.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, what about excellence? Could some of my values, such as excellence in the context of work, be counterproductive or even harmful? I would say, yeah, any value that you have could potentially be harmful. But again, that doesn't necessarily mean that you need to abandon it or that you should let go of it. I think what it means is you just need to be mindful of that.
I mean, you could have too much of a good thing.
Exactly. And you need to be, you're just kind of aware of like, oh, this is, my value for perfectionism can be a benefit in 9 out of 10 situations, but you do need to be able to identify that 10th when it's not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is all the therapy that I think Ryder is doing, right? But yeah, don't let your values become this unquestioned North Star.
Yeah,
You're in conversation with them.
I'll give you an example. So for me, I've always valued hard work, and it was a belief system that if I work hard, I will accomplish great things, or I can accomplish what I want if I just work for it.
Yeah.
Sure.
But there are things that it doesn't matter how fucking hard you work
Here
for
we
it.
go. This is going to come back.
Some
to
things.
It's going to be golf.
Well, I wasn't going to bring it up.
Now that you mention
since
it,
you did.
It's
now
such a
that
good,
you
it's
mention
a
it.
fitting thing. Which, by the way, we had our first tournament of the season on Saturday.
Oh no, he's
Now
back in it.
I came in third, but I walked out the door with like $450
Oh!
in skins bets.
Oh!
So I did pretty good.
Okay.
Anyway,
Is it shirts versus skins? Is that what
that-
you
I
meant?
think that's what he means.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
so.
I hope you
He
were
walked out with
skins.
4 different shirts.
and I will always be skins.
Obvious.
Can't stop, won't stop.
Bro, you're from Iowa. You
yeah.
should definitely not let your skin be exposed to the sun
Yeah,
all day.
blind.
That's a really
Blind.
bad idea for
That's
you.
definitely true. No, but like, so in those situations, yeah, like this belief system of like hard work produces results is a great belief system 9 out of 10 times.
Right.
But in those certain situations where you work really hard and because of certain circumstances outside of your control, you don't accomplish what you want to accomplish, then now it's like the reverse.
Yes.
It's like, well, I didn't work hard enough.
Right.
And now I start to beat myself up over it. And, again, like in 9 times out of 10, that was a great situation.
Right.
But we have to realize that it's not going to work every time. And you have to understand that, okay, this is that exception.
I love that. Yeah, that's a great point. And,
Yeah.
one of the things that I think ACT is trying to do, Ryder, is this idea that Carl Rogers, person-centered therapy founder, talked a lot about. He talked about congruence. And he said, I think a lot of times people become, they struggle in their mental health because the way they're living is not congruent with
Yeah.
who they authentically are, right? And this goes back to your point.
Yeah,
and
or
I think-
cognitive distortions kind
exactly,
of same thing.
cognitive dissonance too.
Or
And-
cognitive dissonance.
yeah, and so like, you say you value your family, but your drug addiction is causing you to hurt your family and you're in distress, right? And then you get stuck in that lost space. Carl Rogers is very interested in helping you get congruent with your value so that you can have that peace. And so ACT, I think, is trying to borrow that directional kind of use of values and helping people get in alignment with them. There's value to that, but again, Ryder, I want you to hold them loosely. To me, values are something you're in conversation with. They're exploratory. They reveal so much about your history and like who gave you those ideas. Why did you pick religion as the number one thing? Why did you feel like you had to? Why is that an integrity thing for you versus what you authentically believe? And how do these things orient you to what success and health looks like for you? And then how are we allowed to challenge and think through our values and readjust their priority over time and pick them whenever they're in juxtaposition? So to me, this is great therapeutic work. It's all grist for the mill, but they're not designed to be the goalposts.
Yeah.
I don't see it that way.
Yeah. The pressure doesn't have to be on achieving those things, and now you're a failure if you don't.
Right.
Because that kind of is just human nature. I mean, you talk about, that incongruence with who we are. I think that was something, not to stick with the kind of Christian religious, mindset, but that was something that was always confusing to me. It's like, oh, I'm a pastor at a church, but I've, had an affair with somebody. And you're thinking, oh, well, they're Christians. So that means to me, since they are a Christian, they should not do X, Y, or Z because we're assuming their values by that. But the reality is we're humans, and yes, we have values, and yes, we're trying to live up to them most of the time. But if we don't, what's going on then? How do we look internal?
Which you just brought up a really good point, right? Because, and this is where I think ACT in this very strict interpreted way that I think I'm getting from the writer is probably not the spirit of what it wants and what most therapists are going to utilize it for.
Right.
Because if you tell me, oh, well, I'm Southern Baptist Jim, my values are to be holy, holiness, Jim. I'm like, okay, well, what's going on in your life?
Jim just starts poking holes in him.
Yeah, I have honest attraction to a coworker.
Right.
And I've been married for so long. This is not holy. So then you're telling yourself, okay, so I'm not holy. Something's wrong with me. I'm incongruent with my values, right?
Right.
But what we want to say to that person is, hey, I don't want to encourage you to act out. I don't want you to encourage, do anything. I don't want you to say that attraction is so legitimate, right? But at the same time, I want to create some space for you to reconsider this value of holiness and how you're interpreting that and how you're imposing that on yourself. Not to like poke holes in your religion or anything like that, but to like create a dialogue.
Because he'd already poked holes in him.
Right, because I already poked holes. But like, I want us to say, hey,
Pokeball.
let's analyze why you have an attraction to this coworker. And that attraction all by itself isn't incongruent with who you really are, right? So like my therapeutic goal is not to achieve congruence by like eliminating your attraction for your coworker, right? So in that old school way of like, what is congruence and how does that apply here? I don't think that we have to use values in that way, writer. That we're saying, okay, you have to get in alignment with these values and then you'll have an epiphany and you'll arrive and you'll achieve this therapeutic enlightenment and now you'll feel satisfied in life. If ACT is preaching that, I think that can quickly get into this weird, strict kind of mentality. I want us to be in dialogue with our values.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Well, it's like 38 Special said. Hold on loosely. Don't let go. If you cling too tightly, you're going to lose
control.
You're going to lose control.
Never heard of that saying.
Damn.
Is there anything that 38 Special can't teach us?
No, there really isn't.
We're going to end it there.
No.
Writer, good luck with this.
Name one more song from 38 Special.
don't even know that one.
Hold on loosely.
There's that one.
That one? Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, and there's also Hold on loosely.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and loosely hold on.
Yeah.
Hold on loosely. Loosely hang on. Oh. Okay, writer, if you go into our Patreon, by the way, we have the values exercise that I use in sessions, and you're welcome to go through the archives and find that. That was posted a while back. I think I do a walkthrough of it. And so you're welcome to listen to that and do the exercise for yourself. And you can kind of hear me explain a little bit more intricately how I use the idea of values in therapy, and maybe you'll find that to be a little bit more accessible for you. But don't make it black and white. That would be a cognitive distortion, and that's not the way I want you to apply these. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're talking about measuring positive impact. You're listening to Pod Therapy.
Deja Voodoo. That's my favorite song name that they have on the list.
Today's episode is brought to you by Robert Brownie, Jr. Mintz, Kayla Lansbury, Kevin Chamberlain, Ben Stanley, Adam Hathaway, Dan Martin, Liv, Heyo, and Andrew Langmead. And if you would like to sponsor the show, become a therapy producer at patreon.com/therapy. All right, folks. There are no multiple choice on this one.
Oh,
okay.
Oh, damn.
So this is stealing is allowed.
Okay.
Oh, shit.
We're gonna go in order, and then if you
Are we going to
pass,
steal in order?
Yes, we're gonna steal in order.
Okay.
So you're saying if you swing and miss, it passes to the next person.
Correct.
All right.
Okay. And then if none of you get it, I will give myself the point.
All right. Yeah.
It's only fair.
Because I can't play otherwise.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, Jim. What the hell? We'll just go
There you go.
right around like
We'll go
that.
Jim, Whitney, Jacobs.
For the listener, I am sitting to Nick's right.
Correct.
I sitteth at the
We're
right
going to
hand
go
of the
counterclockwise.
Yeah.
The Nebatinians, a famous...
Gesundheit.
Oh, by the way, this is called Lost Civilizations
That would help.
and their locations.
Okay. Well, fuck you, whoever wrote this.
It's gonna
I
be
did.
good.
Yeah,
the
fuck you. I
Nebatinians,
stand by it.
Standing by it.
Fair.
famous for their rock-cut city of Petra, thrived in which modern-day country? If you were going to visit Petra, where would you be going? I'll save you time. No.
I'm gonna go with Israel.
No.
Oh,
Whitney.
Did you say country?
Yes.
Modern day country.
Modern day country. Okay.
Is the home of ancient Petra.
So Jordan comes to mind, but is that the country?
I think he's a basketball player.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Jordan.
Correct.
Yay.
Hey!
Wow.
Point to Whitney.
I was not
I was
going to
like,
get
is that a
either.
city or is that the country? I
No,
felt really
that's
dumb
the
for a
country.
minute. Okay. I was like, I felt dumb for a
Damn.
minute.
All right, Whitney.
Okay.
Your question. The lost city of Troy, made famous by Homer's Iliad, is believed to have been located in which modern country?
Oh, wow.
Italy.
No.
Dang it.
Yeah.
Jacob.
Fuck.
Ugh.
Is it Greece?
No, the Greeks.
It
The
can't
Greeks
be all
made
of
the
Greece.
Trojan horse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be my
Beware of
next
Greeks bearing gifts.
Yeah.
Is the Trojan horse thing.
Uh-huh.
So it wouldn't have been Greece. I wouldn't think. Germany.
No.
I think it's an island. I think it's an island that they had to row out to. At least in the Brad Pitt movie, that's what happened.
Oh.
Or a sea they had to cross.
That's fine.
Oh.
I'm going to go with islands. So I think
Okay.
it's going to
Giving you
be...
The islands were finally.
I'm going to pick an island in the Mediterranean.
Hawaii.
I want...
Yes.
Fiji.
You know what? I'll give you 2 points if you can just name an island in the Mediterranean.
Okay. All right.
England.
Give me that. Yeah.
England.
Not in the Mediterranean.
Give me Mykonos.
I mean, yes, but no.
Okay.
I think Jim just got 2 points,
I'll
though.
take
did
mine
get 2
too.
points.
A
Yeah.
gentleman's
He did get 2
too.
points.
I'll
Yeah.
stick
Yeah.
it. You forget, I went on a cruise when I was a kid, and we went to Italy
That
and Greece
means
and the Mediterranean
absolutely
Isles.
nothing.
I know their names.
But you forget, Nick. You forget.
Ah!
The correct answer is Turkey.
So you also
Oh.
get a point.
Turkey is the correct answer.
Turkmenistan, I believe.
So it's 2-1.
Yeah.
Jim with the lead.
Getting an early
Turkmenistan
lead
is a
on this.
different country,
Okay.
but
All
is a
right.
country.
All right.
Jacob,
Yes.
the ancient kingdom of Aksum,
Gesundheit.
known for its massive stone obelisks
And their razors.
and early adoption of Christianity, was centered in which modern-day country?
Shit.
That would be the United Arab Emirates.
It is not.
But it would have been so good if it was.
I know, right?
Me, Armenia.
No.
Shit.
Wait, what was the name of the? What was the first?
Oh, I thought you were going to ask, what was the name of the country?
What's the name of the country? Did I get you?
The ancient kingdom of Aksum, A-K-S-U-M, known for its massive stone obelisks and early adoption of Christianity. Here's the thing. Obelisks, it's
a red herring.
It's throwing you
Yeah,
off.
I think none of us are
Okay.
taking the bait on that.
Yeah, because when you think obelisk, you're thinking sand, desert.
Yeah,
No.
podcast.
I think of Italy again. Even though I already
Okay.
said
All
that,
right.
but
Really sticking to
obelisks.
this Italy thing.
I know obelisks.
It's going to be right at some point.
and they are Christian. I mean,
No.
damn it.
Okay.
I'll give you all one more guess because
All
I know
right.
it's not going to matter.
Okay,
Wow.
thanks.
This is a country in Africa.
Oh,
Oh,
Italy.
Italy. Final answer.
is it
I want
Egypt?
Ethiopia.
Is it
Give
Egypt?
me
then?
Ethiopia.
Southern Italy.
Oh,
South Africa.
No.
Ethiopia.
It is Ethiopia.
Hey.
nice.
Early Christians for the win.
Yep.
Be there,
Nice.
Ethiopians.
He knows his Christians.
I
3
do.
more points if you can name one other country in Africa other than Egypt.
Or South Africa.
And we've all laughed at Italy because that's not correct.
Is it?
I'm stating a statement, right?
You're stating
not a
it, so
question.
no question.
I'm saying it's not
So that means
correct.
we don't have to respond.
So there's
Yeah.
no reason to
No
say
reason
Italy
to respond.
because
No reason
that
for us to
wouldn't be the
respond.
right thing. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. South Africa.
I already
No,
said
we
South
already
Africa.
said
Fuck
South
you.
Africa.
That should
It
count.
just nice here.
Where was the Nile? Yeah.
The other country I said that doesn't count.
I can't say that one.
Egypt.
I can't use Egypt.
No, because I said
No.
other than Egypt
Well,
and South
it didn't do me a
Africa.
fuckload of good, did it? North Africa. West Africa. I was being silly.
That is-
West Africa. Obviously West
okay,
Africa.
all right.
Morocco. Can I say that one?
You can.
Yes.
No.
Why the fuck not? Is it in Asia?
No, it isn't. Africa.
Yay!
He said, "Is it an Asian?"
I remember Morocco Mole. He had a fez. It's good
All
job, everybody. Especially
I'm
Jim.
proud of
Great
us.
work.
Colonel Jim. Just representing the Colonel here. Measuring positive impact. Hi, guys. New listener.
That's what I call it.
And I'm starting from the beginning on
Go from the
episode.
base.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, it's positive impact. Hi, guys.
Start at the floor.
Measure inches off the
Measure
floor.
up.
There it is. There it is. Hi, guys. New listener, and I'm starting from the beginning on episode 11 right now. Let me start.
do that.
Don't ever do that. Let me start with some reinforcement
Ooh.
on y'all because I feel you need to be reminded that this podcast is 10 for 10. It provides a great insight on how mental health professionals think while also educating listeners on the psychology behind the rationale. You make the podcast relatable and entertaining with your humor, games, and differing perspectives.
Yeah, on episode 11 it was.
Yeah, I know. Just stop. Just stop
That was a
there.
good
It'll
beginning.
be great. We'll take the win.
Now we educate you on 38 special songs.
Yeah. We
Still
gave up on that shit a
educational.
long time ago. Now we're doing
Deja voodoo.
That's right. Now we're doing this bit. Also, if you say nice things in a letter, it feels so good. We would sure love to read it in a review.
Yeah.
Now on to the question. I've been in individual and couples therapy now for about 8 months, and I took your advice on waiting 3 sessions to determine compatibility, develop a therapeutic relationship, and see if the therapist has positive impact. My first therapist I felt wasn't a great match, as we mostly talked on a casual level about unimportant subjects. So I switched to seeing a different therapist for one-on-one, which happened to be my marriage counselor. I was against the idea of doing that because I didn't want to create any bias and wanted a different perspective in therapy, but they were more convenient than a different one. My question is, how do you determine if a therapist is the right fit for you? Because I'm on the fence about it with mine. They are well experienced as a professional, and I value their opinion, but there are some criticisms that I do have that I feel could interfere. What does a good therapeutic relationship look like? How do you determine if they're making a positive impact? Thanks, Anonymous. It's a good question.
This is so good. And I know that even since I've been on the podcast, we've kind of addressed like how to look for a therapist and find that helpful relationship. But some additional things that I don't feel like I've at least put input on before is having a therapist that you can not only build positive rapport with, because that is insanely important.
Huge.
But also because you've built that rapport, you're able to accept feedback.
Yeah, right. They've earned the right to challenge you, and you can receive that from them. Mm-hmm.
And I'll admit, as a therapist, it is hard for me to navigate that and find that sweet spot as well on how to challenge every unique client I work with, meet them where they're at, but know that they may need that, you know, at certain times. So yeah, I mean, I guess my initial response is kind of that we've touched on this before, and yes, having that therapeutic rapport is what studies have even shown.
Oh yeah,
is
it's the cornerstone. It's the foundation.
The most important thing, even over whatever therapeutic technique you're using.
Yeah.
But I would say in this case, whatever you're noticing is that maybe is feeling like it's not aligning. I would just question, what is that? Like, is it because it's challenging me and I don't like that, but maybe that's okay? Or is it something worse or something bigger than that? Because you didn't really describe what.
I wish you would have, Ryder. Yeah, it would have been helpful for you to kind of enumerate like examples of things that I do have reservations about. Then we could have sat down and kind of qualified that. But I appreciate that the writer kind of didn't want us to be distracted by that and is kind of asking the opposite of that. Like, what does a healthy, good, what a positive impact relationship look like? That's fair. And I like your point. If a positive impact relationship in therapy, if your therapist can challenge you and you can receive that, which we should point out doesn't always sound confrontational. If we're really good at challenging you, you don't even super duper notice that we did.
Right.
Like we've learned you so well that we can suggest it in ways that you're like, yeah, I was kind of already thinking that.
Right.
And it's like, great. Yeah. So we're both asking that question, huh? And it's like, yeah. And then you're thinking like, well, did you challenge me or did you just point out the obvious? And it's like, well, I point out the obvious, but you're cool with it, right? Like,
yeah, I just had this in a session this week where the client was kind of being confrontational. This was actually a family session, which is unique, but they had kind of been in this conflict with their parents. And I kind of asked, I was like, what do you think your parents' perspective is? Like challenging the client. Yeah. And they were like, well, or what do you think they're trying to say here? Because they're like, you're saying this because of this. What do you think they're trying to say? And they were like, well, probably. Maybe I am being defensive. Yeah. That was like out of their mouth. I was like, wow. I was like, man, it was a really good feeling. And then I'm like, but I mean, they had to trust me to say this is a safe place to even kind of challenge yourself in there in that moment. But anyway, yes.
I love that.
Yeah, you don't even know. That's a good point. I hadn't thought about it. I was challenging them in that moment.
There's a way to challenge. There's a way to give feedback, but one has to earn the right to do that. And this is why we keep coming back to the relationship has to be strong. You have to feel very comfortable. You have to feel like you can be disarmed with this person, unguarded, and that you sense that they genuinely want you to succeed. And there is this sense of like, hey, I know you are rooting for me. And then whenever I nudge you, you receive that and you don't feel threatened by it or hurt by it. I'm not subtracting for you. You feel like I'm pushing you forward, you know, and that's huge. So I love that insight. That's a great note.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking like the time that I went to therapy, what are the things that I liked about my therapist? You know, and I think kind of along the same lines, but also just I would feel like I could say something and it would be received in a non-judgmental way.
That's big.
Like I could feel comfortable just saying like, hey, this is what I'm thinking, even knowing in my mind, like,
it's like
this doesn't feel right
whatever.
to me. Yeah, this is, I know I'm fucked up.
I get it.
But I want you to know, and I want you to acknowledge and just be like, yeah, that, you know, and validate my fucked upness.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
And so, yeah, that was, I think, very helpful. And she also did she didn't really challenge me so much as she just did kind of just like, hey, yeah, that's kind of normal.
Right.
And also, here's something else that maybe you're not thinking of.
Right.
And it's like, oh, yeah. So it was more enlightening than it was challenging in a way.
Yes. I find clients find a lot of value from that. Like, when I hear that next phrase, I hadn't thought about it like that.
Yeah.
That to me is, all right, if I do nothing else with this client, I'm glad they've at least thought that once. Like, this is a new perspective or something that helps me understand myself.
And to do that in a way that doesn't say, like, well, you're wrong, think about it this way, but doing it in a way that's kind of like, hey, you know what, you could be right. Also, here's something else that could be happening too.
Right.
You know, and just kind of doing it that way.
The gentle suggestion, or sometimes that ability to sort of ask these subtle questions, kind of like what Whitney did. Like, what do you think? And like, you're coming off as curious.
Yes.
Because you're trying to learn. And so you're saying, hey, what do you think mom meant though? Well, she probably meant this. You know, it's like, oh, okay. I can see where that is tricky, right? And then we can still pivot to validating and being like, I totally know why that would stick in your craw.
I know why you're feeling defensive. Like, I get
kind of feel
that.
like a poke in the eye.
Do you think they're actually
and on
meaning
the other
that?
hand, sounds like it was an awkward thing more than malicious. And it's like, yeah, probably. It's like, great. I've just subtly helped you loosen your grip on your conclusion, which is going to open up some of your relationship opportunity with this person and maybe a path toward letting it go or forgiving. But I've done it without saying you're wrong, drop it.
Yeah.
And I've done it in this way that is honestly bonded to you. Right. And I've earned that right. And this goes back to what you're saying, Nick. Like, it's a non-judgmental receiving of what this person is teaching you, but maybe still reserving the right to help them question some of their conclusions, but doing it in such a light-handed way that it's not hurtful and you don't feel invalidated.
Yeah.
And that is an art.
Yeah, I do like what Nick said now that I'm sitting with that more. When I've been to therapy as well, I think the one thing I wanted the most was to be able to just be myself, because it's really hard to do that anywhere else.
Yeah.
We're always kind of navigating, whether it's work relationships, friendships, even romantic relationships. We can mostly be ourselves, but also I don't want to burden my partner all the time, like with my shit. It's got to be like they deal with theirs. Sometimes I do and sometimes they do. But really a place to like, this is one way and I want that. Like, I want to be able to release and I want your feedback too. But 90% of this or 80%, whatever, I want it to be me to have that release, that non-judgmental space.
Yeah.
The other thing that I just realized too, listening to this, is that like when I went into therapy, I didn't want her to know what I did for work.
Yeah.
I wanted her to just be
I hear this a lot with therapists.
Yeah.
What?
And so-
Do we all
so,
just,
like,
can we just admit it? Do we all lie to our own therapists? We
Yeah.
all do this, right? Like, we all just bury that shit. And she's like, what do you do? I work in healthcare.
Yeah.
That's what I
Just
did.
leave that, right?
That's
We all
what I
do that,
did.
right?
And then she's like, oh, what? Like what? And then I was like, oh, fine. So, but I didn't really want her to know, because I felt like I was putting undue pressure on her.
Right.
I wanted her just be a good, just be
What
you.
would you do
just
if I
be
was
your
just
therapist?
Yeah.
Don't
I
try
worked
to
in the
outplay
casino.
chess with
Yes.
me. I don't want to compete. Like,
Yes.
just
And,
do it.
You know, because I was worried that she was just going to feel pressure and be
Yeah.
like, oh shit, and like,
Yeah.
but she handled it like a champ. And like the thing that she did too is like I finally kind of got to that point. I was like, I said, yeah, this is what I do. oh, okay. And she's like, yeah, I've got other clients that are also therapists, and you're not the first,
Of course.
And the other thing that she did that she was really skillful about is she gave the impression to me that she dropped the act.
Yeah.
That she wasn't
right.
trying to be a therapist.
Right.
But she didn't. Like
She still did the shit.
Yeah, she was 100% therapist.
But more like chummy therapist rather than
but just kind of
you should have.
But just kind of made it appear like she wasn't, and then that kind of let my guard down, because then I felt like I wasn't putting any kind of pressure on her to perform.
Right.
That's true.
So,
That's interesting.
yeah.
So this is a topic in research that I am obsessed with. And Whitney kind of already alluded to some of what research tells us is the key to making psychotherapy work and getting these changes in people, and how much of it is relationship driven. And you even, I think, touched on a couple of other things there that even more important than which theory the therapist is using or what discipline the therapist comes out of, there's other ingredients that are the most important for the writer's question of what makes the positive impact. And this semester at UNLV, I'm teaching the internship class. So all my students are out there in the field. They're all practicing.
Yeah.
And then we're coming back and we're going over their cases. But then we're also doing these deep dives into various topics. And one of the things we just did was an exploration of the common factors. And writer, the common factors in the research is basically the set of things, skills, that we've learned that if therapists can master these things, there's 8 of them, that if we can do these, we will make a huge impact in the person's life, that we will see the results. And it's wild because there's been all these studies that show the best therapists that use these common factors, ones that have really mastered them, they're not just a little bit better than the rest of us. They're not just a tiny bit better than the average. It is so many multiples better than the average therapist that it's such a wide gap. I saw something in the literature that compared it to if the average therapist is who's that fastest man alive? The
Usain Bolt.
That guy. So if the average therapist is Usain Bolt on the track, the best therapist by comparison, what the research shows is efficacy studies, how much better they are an F1 race car. That is how much faster they are. That's how much better they are.
You could have just used you and Usain Bolt.
Okay, yeah, or that. Yeah, just me hobbling,
more relatable.
gasping for air, 5 steps in, and Usain Bolt who's at the finish line.
What are the 8 things?
So I do have them. I want to. It's tough because I want to list them, but I also know that this will not do it justice. And when we teach that in the classroom, the phrases sound very approachable. When you hear them, they sound innocuous. They sound like words you've heard before. But when you crack open each one of them, it's a chapter of a book to explain what that is in therapy. How do you do that skill?
So we know that there's more to it than this. So if you're interested in this, take these 8 things and then dive into it a little bit.
Yeah, I need to do a series on it in the Patreon. And so at some point I will. But 2 of them, there's 8 of them, but 2 of them are things that have already been pointed out. So actually 3. So Nick just kind of pointed out genuineness. She seemed to have dropped the act, right? And so genuineness is one of the skills of mastery that when a therapist can get that.
That's one.
He's got one finger up. Oh, I see. You're pushing me along. Positive regard is another one. That's something that Nick was talking about.
That's 2.
You genuinely seem to like me. Acceptance is number 3, being there and feeling like you get it.
Great.
Accurate empathy is another one, not just feeling for them, but understanding them, on an intuitive level. And that kind of goes back to what you were saying, earning the right
Really empathizing.
to speak to them.
Yeah.
Am I at 4? Focus is another one, keeping them focused on treatment plan objectives, moving them along. See, the writer talked about how it just felt like we were bantering. It just felt like we were chatting. Didn't feel like we were doing therapy anymore. And when the therapist can keep nudging you into deeper introspection or nudging you toward a goal or pushing you towards something, that focus feels better and it is better therapy. Inspiring hope is another one. Keeping you uplifted, keeping you focused on the mission, feeling like you're going to get there, noticing change. Another one is evocation, which is hard to define, but it's the ability to get you to unfold things, to develop insight, to explore things, to notice things that you have forgotten about yourself.
It's not just passing time. It's
discovering truth. Yeah, developing greater insight. And then the last one is offering information and advice and really giving actual useful tips, suggestions, feedbacks, but doing it in a way that's receivable and useful.
Do we have to do all those every session?
Yeah, right.
I'm
Yeah,
like, oh.
no way.
But the 9th one is karate.
That's right. Yeah, therapists that know karate.
You could beat up people.
It's
That
a
builds
really
confidence.
important thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like to
Yeah.
open the first session by chopping that block in half.
Yeah,
Just
good.
one big swipe, and there's like, holy shit, and I'm like,
Hi-ya.
that's right.
Hi-ya.
Yeah.
Got nunchuck skills.
Yes, Napoleon.
Bow wielding.
I just want to let my clients know that I could, if necessary, physically dominate them.
I'm sending a message.
Like, I don't know what it is about that therapist. Just something about him. Just
I feel
take
like he
charge.
just kicked my ass, though.
I'm telling you, just cut right through that fucking board. Just one motion. He stared me in the eye when he did it. Anyway, Ryder, there's a lot of great things that can contribute to a positive impact. I think we've explored some of them. But at the end of the day, I'd encourage you, don't overthink it. I mean, if you're noticing that, hey, we have a genuine rapport, I'm leaning in on this, I don't want you to get so critical and so like into the weeds that you start analyzing the therapist instead of analyzing yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I don't think they listen to this, but the therapist that I met with, I actually really liked a lot of things about her, but I didn't feel like it was 100% match, but I valued the things that she did give. So I did meet with her for quite a few sessions and kind of took it as like, okay, I'm going to take the things I can gather from this. I think there probably is a better match out there for me, but this is still a good match for now to get me through what I need to get through.
Yeah.
And once I felt like it was not serving me as much anymore, and I feel like the relationship I kind of played out, then I ended that relationship. And, you know, when I decide to go back to therapy, I'll look for something a little bit different. I actually know more of what I'm looking for because of that experience.
Because of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And also
it doesn't mean she's a bad therapist.
Not at all.
Mm-mm.
And never discounting that somebody that you don't think is a good fit for you may have something profound for you.
Correct.
You know, and you might realize like, wow, I don't have a lot of lived experience with people of your personality type or your approach. I didn't know that you would have. Like, I don't know how you think. And that different brain is sometimes really helpful.
Yeah, I agree.
So just keeping an open mind, Ryder. But I love this question. I love that it gives us a chance to kind of opine on that.
Yeah, revisit it in a
But
different way.
for everybody out there, some people get way too caught up in the search. And they're like, oh, man, it seems to come down to who the therapist is and the relationship and like all these unseen qualities that you can't quite put on a resume. And I get it. And because of that, people can like get so preoccupied with that they never begin their own work. And I like your story, Whitney, because it kind of encourages, just get started. Get started wherever you are with whoever's available and just begin. Don't believe that one therapist is the be all end all. They're part of your story, right?
Yeah.
Just look for a couple of puzzle pieces they're holding on to for you, and then move and you'll get more puzzle pieces from other people.
Yeah. And I know, Jim, you don't do this in your practice, and that's okay, but I think reaching out for consult calls, and it's just 10 or
I
15
do that
minutes.
when
I
need
thought
to.
you just...
no, consult calls with the patient. No, I don't.
Yeah.
I thought you meant like consultation with professionals.
Oh,
Yeah.
no. I mean, like if I'm looking for a therapist, or
Right.
I do that when, because I don't want to waste my time or theirs.
Sure,
and so
yeah.
I'm like, yeah, reach out to me. And they will say, I just had this consult call recently. They were like, oh, I've been doing EMDR. And I'm like, well, I'm not trained and I don't do EMDR. This is what I do. And so if you're looking for that, then you may want to look somewhere else. But if you're okay trying this, this is how I operate. And usually if they feel like we click, they're like, no, I'm fine.
Right,
And they
I don't
will.
care.
It's kind of funny. And so,
Yeah.
but I think you can really feel out just through even a 10-minute phone conversation if somebody's like, if
And
you
it's
might
not
click.
always available. Like in my practice,
Yeah.
not a lot of people that take insurance. If you're calling an agency, they're not going to let you start calling each therapist and
No.
interviewing them. You know, they're just going to say, "Hey, what day and time is good for you? We're going to find somebody or do this intake paperwork, and then we'll case it and we'll assign it to somebody we think is a good fit." So.
You can always, sometimes email and ask, like, do y'all do consults?
I do
You know,
that.
things
Like if somebody
that.
messaged me on Yelp or they get to my website
Oh,
and
that's
they
a good point.
email
Just a
or
quick
text
little-
me, I'll get that from Psychology Today, and they'll say, "Hey, some questions," and I'll give them the feedback.
Oh, that's a good
You know,
point.
So
Okay.
I'll do that. It's
Okay.
just I can't block out my calendar, you know, to take the calls because then they'll never end. But,
I try really hard whenever I'm doing anything, and not just therapy, but when I'm doing something where I'm hiring a professional to do it, I try really hard to give like all benefit of the doubt at first.
Right.
I walk in going like, "You are the professional. You're doing this." Like, you know, therapist. You know, I'm not. I feel like I wouldn't look too hard for a therapist. Find that therapist and go in with the expectation that they're going to be good. They're going to be good at their job.
Competent until you
Start
prove
that.
me otherwise.
That's
Right.
it.
Yeah.
I'm going to
Good
give you that
point.
benefit of the doubt until you show me that you're not, and then I'm going to move on.
Right.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to take action, whatever action needs to be taken there.
Yeah.
But maybe try and swing into that mindset
I like
a little
that.
bit more.
Good advice. Yeah, look for what you
Don't
have
stress
in
too
common.
much about it, and just go in, assume that they know what they're doing. It's like when you go into like a massage envy.
Okay.
Like you don't go in and go like I have to look at all the different masseurs and everything in
Right.
here. You go in and you go like who's available? Oh, this person's available.
it.
They're a professional masseuse
Yep.
working at a massage place. Yep, they're going to be fine.
Yeah, you can give a lot, or the barbers, just
Yeah.
like, you could find your barber. It's like, oh, they just know what I want.
Right.
They got it.
Then you don't have to talk to them or whatever.
Yeah.
But, I mean, like
maybe you'll find that click, but you wouldn't have found them if you didn't try.
Yeah.
Right.
So you just got to show up and try, and then next time try somebody else if you need to.
Yeah.
So anyway,
that's
glad
what
to
38
hear
Special
about
said to do.
it. Oh yeah, 38.
did they
It always comes
say?
back to the wisdom of 38 Special, which is probably going to be the episode title. Now that I think about it,
The wisdom
We
of
can do
38
better
Special.
than
I think we can do
38
better.
Special, can't we?
Can we? I don't know. Can anybody? Really? Is the deeper question.
Great.
We haven't yet.
Ryder, I look forward to reading your review on iTunes or Spotify or
Anywhere.
good.
No.
pods.
And iTunes
Yeah.
and
Thank you.
Spotify
Thank you.
and anywhere else that you
All
can think of.
Go into our episode description, everybody. The links are already there to save you a step. Anyway, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're talking about PTSD. You're listening to Pod Therapy.
Today's episode is brought to you by Robert Brownie, Junior Mintz, Kayla Lansbury, Kevin Chamberlain, Ben Stanley, Adam Hathaway, Dan Martin, Liv, Heyo, and Andrew Langmead. If you would like to sponsor the show, become a Theraproducer at patreon.com/therapy. All right. Where are we at? Jim.
Crushing it.
The Sumerian civilization, often credited with developing the first known writing system,
Oh, yeah.
thrived in which modern-day country?
Iran?
No. Whitney.
Cool whip. Sumerian.
I took a good one, right? I feel like
that was
Iran
pretty
was
good.
solid.
You threw me off a little bit.
Summerlin.
I don't know. I need options.
Those are not available.
Iraq.
Yes.
Fuck!
Really?
Oh,
Yes.
I was like, well, that's a good guess. It's probably somewhere around there.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, yay.
cradle of civilization-ish.
Yeah.
Damn it.
Thanks, Jim.
You're welcome.
All right, Whitney. The Harappan civilization, part of the Indus Valley civilization, which you're, of course, familiar
Yeah,
with,
Indus.
We were just talking about that before.
Not
we
the
started
Las
recording.
Vegas
Indonesia.
Indus
was
Valley.
located in which two modern-day countries?
So Indonesia and
Yeah.
Indonesia.
Harappan civilization. Harappan.
Oh, fuck.
Sure. Why not Indonesia? And
Micronesia.
not Micronesia. What's next to Indonesia?
Indonesia.
Isn't Indonesia an island?
Outronesia.
Shit. I'm like, shit.
It's a cluster of islands.
You're a cluster of islands.
Nice.
Gotta stay down.
Cambodia.
Cambodia?
And I don't know another option.
Indonesia.
I don't know it.
And-
Cambodia and Thailand.
Sure. No.
Dang it.
Nice try, though.
I forgot what the question is.
Yeah.
Shoot from the hip, baby. It's never failed you before.
Harapan. Thank you. That's a good guess.
Canada and
Oh, U.S. Canada and the U.S.
Solid
no,
try.
both
I
are
was-
wrong.
I would
good at
like
instilling hope.
India and Pakistan.
Correct.
Fuck yeah! Give me them points, bitches. I don't know shit about geography, but this ancient civilization
Wow,
shit
Jim's
is showing up
having
in my
his,
archives. My brain is like, dude, that's
Slumdog
the Indus
Millionaire
Valley,
moment.
the Indus River Valley. That's this fucking area. Yay! I have
All
4
right, Jacob.
points.
All right.
The Minoans, famous for their place of Gnosis
Sure.
Obviously.
Gnosis.
and their
Nauseous.
connection to the Minotaur legend,
Oh, Minotaur.
live on which modern-day island?
That's good.
Yep.
If you give the country, I will award points.
It's gotta be Greece.
There's-
right?
Greece.
Yeah, it was a Greece,
Yeah,
right?
That's,
Yes.
That's
Yeah,
it.
I was
Is it
like-
Mykonos?
It is not.
Shit. That would have been great if it
That
was.
would've been-
2 points for the island. Anyone want to go for it?
I'll take a shot at it.
Go for it.
Patmos?
No.
Fuck. Ephesus.
No.
Fuck.
So that's -4
Shit,
points.
I didn't know I was gambling.
Yep.
No comment then, no
it's a
comment.
trap.
No, only Jim loses points. If you guess, Jim loses points.
I'm not guessing.
Crete.
Oh.
Ow!
So
Crete.
Crete. Yeah.
Creeping on
Okay.
I know.
She's
There
got
we
it.
go. Good
That was
job,
fun.
everybody.
I'm a creep.
I've got 20 more of those, so we can continue in the next episode.
My brain hurts from this one.
What the hell am I doing here? Who's winning? I think it's me.
I think I am.
Nope.
I have some points.
PTSD's nuts. Hello, pod therapists Jim, Nick, and Whitney. In my mouth. And Dr. Life Coach Jacob.
Thank you.
Well respected.
I didn't go to life coaching school for 6 years to be called Mr. Jacob.
I am a combat veteran with PTSD, and I need help figuring out how to survive my own big fat Greek wedding weekend. My fiance and I are getting married this June at her father's farmhouse. Because it's not at a traditional venue, the wedding party is arriving early to help set up on Thursday. We have the rehearsal and dinner on Friday, the wedding on Saturday, and a big family brunch on Sunday. Essentially, 4 straight days of high-stimulus socializing. Ever since returning from Iraq almost 20 years ago, I've struggled with crowds, prolonged social settings, or any other high-stimulus environment. I've sought therapy for this in the past and have made great strides, but every day is still a struggle. Even during short gatherings, like holidays, I often have to step away to take a nap, which is really just me staring at the ceiling, meditating, trying to decompress from hypervigilance and overstimulation. A full weekend of this kind of activity can leave me drained for days or even weeks, battling a depressive episode. I love my family, and I'm very much looking forward to this day, but I know it's going to be a challenge. The best way I've described managing these symptoms is that it's like holding my hand on a hot stove. I can force myself to keep my hand down, but the pain builds, and eventually my will gives out. Even when I manage, there's a constant ticking clock counting down toward a building panic attack. My fiancé is incredibly understanding, and we're working on strategies for me to take short breaks when needed. Optimally, I'd like to excuse myself from entire parts of it, like the rehearsal dinner or the brunch. But as the groom, this isn't really an option, as I can't Irish goodbye my own wedding. I also worry about how I come across to my in-laws and guests, who don't really get that my need for space isn't personal, and it's not about who is there, but how much is happening at once. The last thing I want is to seem disinterested or like an asshole who doesn't care about my own wedding. I don't want to just get through this weekend. I want to actually be able to enjoy what's supposed to be the happiest day of my life without having PTSD-induced panic attacks. Any thoughts or advice would be appreciated. Thanks for all you do. Signed, Live, Laugh, Leave Me Alone, Sergeant Social Anxiety.
I want
Good question.
to hear
Can we normalize getting cool signatures at the ends of these things? I mean, like
know.
the anonymous thing is fine, but like do that. I like that. Give me those.
That's a
And then
good
we get
one.
to call you Sarge.
Yeah, fuck yeah, we do.
The colonel
I
and
like
the
it. I'll allow it. I outrank him, but I'll allow it.
Do you?
Only in Kentucky.
Well, first of all, thank you for your service.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is really, and honestly, I think you're doing all the right things. You're doing all the things that I would suggest you do. The thing that I always think about, like the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior.
Right.
And that's one of the benefits that you have going for you right now is you better than anybody else. And you can use that information to your advantage. You know what situations are going to be triggering. You know your limit. You know your stress level. You know what you can take. All of that. Use that to your advantage. And again, like I think you're already doing a lot of the right things. You're planning in breaks. My only advice to you, I think, is it's not for anybody else to understand.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's the hardest part because I'm the same way too. Like I do care a lot about other people's opinions and what they think of me, or, I don't want to do this because I don't want them to think I'm rude. But at the end of the day, they'll be fine. They're there attending a wedding.
Yeah.
Right.
And even though you and your to-be wife are going to be the stars of the show, the wedding will go on with you guys not being there.
Yeah.
It's like,
it's a common thing at weddings, like after the ceremony,
Except the
before
ceremony.
the reception, for the new couple to just disappear for an hour.
That's
to go
right.
take pictures or something like that. And the party just happens without them. That's reasonable. That's perfectly normal.
I'm thinking of all my cousins that got married and going to the wedding, thinking like, I will probably say 2 or 3 words
Correct.
to this couple.
Sure.
Right.
And then, because they're going to be busy. They're
Yeah.
bouncing
Of course.
around.
But everyone's going to do that, which
Exactly.
adds up.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And so I guess what I'm saying is that any one individual person is probably not going to notice.
That's
Yeah,
true. That's
good
true.
point.
That's
You
true.
know?
There are a couple things that I would do. One is I would deputize a
Yes.
couple of other people.
There you go.
This
you
is
got-
my angle
You
too,
got
yeah.
the bride already. She is going to be busy.
Yeah.
It is the wedding day. So like you're going to be busy. She's also going to be busy, of course. You know that.
If there's ever work for a best man,
A
That's it.
groomsman
That's
and
it.
best man.
Yeah, if you have a wedding party that you can lean on a little bit, not even the whole wedding party, if there was like 1 or 2 people there that you can lean on a little bit and just say, and again, like Nick said, they don't have to understand it. They just have to care about you.
Right.
Because all you're going to do is go to them and say, look, I do, I've got the PTSD thing from my service days. I do get a little uncomfortable around crowds. There are times that I'm going to need to disappear for a few minutes at a time here and there, just to take little breaks whenever I feel it kind of building up. And if you could do me a favor, help me out when I need to take those breaks. Help me get out of a conversation that I'm having or whatever. And also maybe kind of keep an eye on me.
Yeah.
And if you see signs that I'm starting to get a little stressed about the situation, maybe come in and make an excuse for me. Maybe come in and say,
I need your help over here.
Yeah, I need your help out here or something like that.
I like that.
Also, you talk about not wanting to leave events that you're in, like brunches and rehearsal dinners and everything else. You are the motherfucking groom.
Yeah.
You're getting married. You could do whatever you want. So if you want to leave, that's fine. However, if you want to do something that people won't notice or comment on, or if they do comment on it, it'll be positive, you can show up late.
Ah.
You can cut the time short on the front end
Okay.
and make an entrance. You could come in with your bride to be, make a whole
good
entrance
point.
thing. And like if everybody's doing a rehersal dinner, if you feel like you have to go to that,
You do the rehearsal and then take
fine.
your break
You
and go to
you do the
dinner
rehearsal,
late.
You take your you take your break. You let them do their thing. Maybe
They
if
can
it's
start
a thing
dinner.
where you have to order food or something like that, somebody else orders your food for you. You show up with the food.
I like that.
You can
Do the chores. Yeah.
There's all those little things that you can do.
That's a great. I like this idea of recruiting the team.
Yeah.
And I also like the idea of like the secret signal.
Right.
It's like you go,
Mm-hmm.
hey man, if you see me pulling on my ear or something like this, like, or if you see me keep checking my watch,
Yeah.
that's the signal.
finger in the nose, or
Right,
like
yeah.
deep crotch itching.
Yeah.
It's good.
You see me
Yeah.
put
That's-
my whole fist in my
I didn't
mouth.
know that's what that
right,
signal was when men did that,
yeah,
because
that's
it
what it is.
happens
Get
a
me the
lot.
fuck out.
Like,
Yeah. Baseball games. It's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah, exactly. Brushing the shoulder.
Nobody
like-
wants to be there.
And then I love that idea of just run interference for me, man. Come up and pull out a phone or call my phone.
Yeah.
And just call it from
And
across the
especially
room.
if you're having like a big wedding with a lot of guests and everything.
Yep.
You're going to find that it becomes easier than you think to disappear because everybody's just going to think you're off with a different group of people.
Yep.
Especially the groom, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
I could
Yeah,
be
they're
wrong,
staring at the
but
wife.
Yeah, this is for the bride.
You
for
are
sure.
basically a placeholder, buddy.
Yeah.
That's it. You do not exist.
I want to, and again, correct me, whoever's here, if I'm wrong, but I feel like in weddings, the day of especially, like it's a whole all day thing for the bride. But like grooms, as far as I know, they're just
rolled out of
bored
bed
as
and
fuck.
showed up at the
right?
altar. Yeah.
They're like there is time and nobody's checking on
That's
you, and like
that's not.
Yeah.
That's not being a groom. That's just
He's
Jim.
stuck there for 4 days though, so it's a farm, and he's like, boop. He's there.
yeah,
Oh, yeah, it's
yeah.
a destination thing.
That's true. So you're kind of around, but in my mind, it's like I want to make sure, in Jim's terms, we're right sizing this. Where we see the writer may be seeing this as 4 days of socializing, like nonstop, but the reality is going to be like, okay, you have rehearsal and rehearsal dinner. That's an evening. That's still a lot. I don't want to underestimate that, but that's an evening.
Yeah.
Your wedding day, that's an afternoon and evening. We're looking at like a 4-hour window there, which is an intense 4-hour window. But before that,
I think they're going to be in a building.
Yeah.
Right.
Not intense.
well, the windows are nice.
Might be intense. I don't know.
Nice.
Maybe for the reception.
Yeah.
I was like the window of time. Oh no, the tents, of
No, no.
course. But yeah, I just
Past.
think there's like I mean, again, as a bride, it was a lot, but my perception has always been for the grooms, they're just chilling and hanging out. You can go chill in your room by yourself if you want. Or like, hey, I'm going to go take a nap before this day. Like
the day of my wedding, I went and had just like lunch. I went and had chili dogs at a local chili dog stand.
Right before.
It's a good pre-honeymoon.
Yeah. Just like a couple of friends. I think my dad and brother came.
Yeah,
that's right.
Gotta get carbo loaded for this thing. I'm gonna be up all night anyway.
But like just silly stuff. Like you can do whatever you want.
I like that.
Yeah, it plays into what Jacob was saying.
And you can also this may be the type of person you are. I know it is the type of person I am. Something that can help me is to have something to do.
Yeah.
So like there are going to be things to do. There are going to be jobs to do.
Give yourself chores.
Yeah.
Stay
busy.
Like
there are going to be things like all these chairs got to get set up for the reception.
We need a bag of ice.
That's it.
I'm on it.
Running.
Yep.
Driving to the nearest town. I'll be back in 2 hours.
Yeah, if they're in a farmhouse, you got a good hour drive there and back.
You got to get on the horse.
California has the best ice.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to drive out there.
Well, somebody needs to harvest these crops before the wedding. I'm on it. Can't have these crops just sitting out here. No, this is all really good advice.
Traditional Iowa wedding.
I think that we're normalizing.
This is
it probably is.
Yeah.
We're normalizing that the writer has, I think, permission, social permission and event permission.
Yeah.
The spouse is already in on this. The groomsmen can be notified. So I really like preemptive education, helping the guests understand, hey, I love you all to pieces. I just want to be, plain with you that I do have some of these struggles. And so if I ever seem a little antsy or you don't see me for a little bit, know that I am okay. I love you. I'm so grateful that you're here. But my social battery's a little over spent. Writer, therapeutically, things that I think you can also bring to the party here. If you haven't already started looking into grounding techniques, and it sounds like you've done therapy before, and I imagine it's an area you've done some exploration in, but really just sharpening up on that whole skill set, there are a lot of different grounding techniques that you can kind of play with. And these are things that you can kind of have in your pocket that are good distractions, that get your mind out of the stimulation, right? That hypervigilance, that hyper-awareness, anything we can do that can kind of distract your brain's awareness into these other places. And that's fundamentally, there's so many different ways to do grounding techniques, but I would encourage you to kind of open up that file again and explore that space. You have like a lot of months as we record this, about 4 months before the actual event. You've been dealing with this for a long time. You went to Iraq 20 years ago. You've done a lot of personal work on it. At this point, I'm curious if you've ever talked to a psychiatrist.
That was my other option.
It's an important tool.
Is it bad to talk about this?
No,
that's I don't know why I didn't think of that earlier. That's great.
It's a valuable tool.
I was like, can I come in with Xanax?
Under the consultation of your doctor,
we're not recommending that.
We don't recommend that. But under the consultation of your doctor, explaining what you've explained to us, and if you have ever experimented with different medicines under correct supervision, you have 4 months to practice with them, to talk to a doctor and say, hey, this is what's coming up in my life. It's kind of like when you have a big flight and people have anxiety for that. And it's like,
this is the time to try these things.
Yeah,
like the one day it's extreme. Yeah.
Yeah. Try it and go to the mall. Try these things out.
Yeah.
And then that's also where you can
try them out.
Techniques.
Don't do like Whitney's Xanax example. Don't do like day.
That's not day one.
This is the first time I've ever tried Xanax.
Don't mix with alcohol.
Like don't do that. Yeah. Think of all those things too. And you got time. Practice it.
Knowing how it affects you.
Yes.
Under the supervision of your doctor, assuming they agree with this and that you didn't bring this up, maybe because you've already tried that stuff or you already have these tools and it just doesn't solve the problem. Again, you didn't mention it, so we just want to make sure that we're checking that box.
The writer might even be like an addict or something like that.
Yeah,
too.
sure. We don't know the backstory.
There are all kinds of things that could be keeping him from doing that.
But just mentioning it, but also mentioning grounding techniques. Yeah. And then, I think, enlisting your crew and then educating the guests just with a little bit of a disclaimer, the same way people do before they give a speech and they say, hey, everybody, I'm pretty anxious, but I'm going to muscle through this. Please bear with me. The audience is on your side now.
I don't think you have to tell everybody about it.
Yeah, you can. I'm saying there's nothing wrong with that.
Oh, no. Yes, I do agree with that.
Yeah. You don't have to.
No, I don't. I certainly don't think you have to.
But, you can quickly give some kind of light disclaimer of, hey, I don't do well with crowds and, thank you for your patience with me if I, kind of wander off. Like, okay, great. Or if, I just don't like to be grouped up on. So all those ideas, writer. I think this is going to be successful, though. Yeah. And coming back to, I think, what multiple people said, at the end of this, brother, this is your day. Yeah. This is for you and your bride. I had over 200 people at my wedding. I have no fucking clue what any of them thought, if they had a good night, It does not matter.
I had 25.
And like I've had 20 years with my in-laws. So whatever impression they got that night, whatever happened, we've had more opportunities to hang out. Like,
and
we've
the
gotten to know
other
each other.
people aren't going to remember. Like, if you asked me to think about all the weddings I've been to and like
No
what the
clue.
bride and groom were doing, like I couldn't freaking tell you more
Yeah.
than maybe 2 seconds of that wedding what each
Right.
person was doing.
And nobody's judging the bride and groom
No.
of like, oh, they seemed a little pissy. Like,
No.
shut the fuck up.
You're like, is the cake good?
Their day.
You better have good cake.
Your job is to show
Or
up,
donuts or
clap,
whatever.
cry,
Bring
eat the
presents.
cake, dance,
Bring
have,
a
you know,
present, have a good time.
an acceptable amount of drinks, go home. Yeah. Don't puke in the lawn.
Yeah.
That's the whole point. So congratulations, Ryder.
Yeah.
I think this is going to be great for you. And let's just believe together that if we
You'll
can
get through
sharpen
it
up,
one way or another.
you're going to get married.
You're gonna do
At the end
it.
of this
You're
thing, you're
doing
going to
it.
be hitched. So it will work out for you, man. But thanks for listening to the show. Thanks for a really good question.
Hey, congratulations on the
And
marriage.
congratulations.
That's
Hope
exciting.
that works out. Well, we are going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we are wrapping up the show. You're listening to Pod Therapy.
Today's episode is brought to you by Robert Brownie Jr. Mintz, Kayla Lansbury, Kevin Chamberlain, Ben Stanley, Adam Hathaway, Dan Martin, Liv, Heyo, and Andrew Langmead. Would you like to sponsor the show? Become a therapy producer at patreon.com/therapy.
Thank you, everybody who wrote in, and thank you to my co-hosts who all got an ass whooping in trivia today.
We'll have to look
My
at
ass
the tape.
wasn't
and
I
see,
am a
Yes.
humble
see
champion.
who
Very
won on
I
that
got
one.
2 out of 3 of mine.
Yeah.
Yep. It's a good
Plus
topic.
you stole.
And I
Yeah,
stole.
yeah,
I stole
yeah.
some. What does
You
that
did.
count for?
Yeah, just
Yeah.
not enough.
No.
That's how that works
That's-
out.
And
That's
also
fair.
for the listeners, at one point we did have to stop the show due to technical issues. And if you
Yes.
can timestamp that and tell us when it was, because our editing is so good, we don't think you can.
Yes,
If you can spot that, Jim, what will you do for them?
I will post the show on time. I mean, I haven't been doing that lately, so that would
Yeah,
be a
that'd be
lot
great.
more.
That'd be
Yeah.
awesome.
That's something.
I get a lot of DMs on Wednesday afternoon. You know, the Patreon's like, what the fuck?
I feel like we were all about to make fun of Jim for that answer. Let's just go with it.
Yeah, I think that's a solid answer.
That's a solid gift. Anyway, as we wrap up the show, we do want
Also,
to
I
remind
haven't
you,
edited those 2 pieces together yet, so I don't know if they're going to be good or not.
That could be
Right?
fun.
Yeah, we'll try. We want to remind you can sign up at patreon.com/therapy. You can get that extended show ad-free a day earlier, usually, as we enjoy, and also enjoy our live chat Discord community and our weekly deep dives, interviews, skill shares, research roundups, and rants. And as we arrive today, who has joined us at the Theraparty at patreon.com/therapy?
We got a new Therapal. Welcome to the show, Brenna Hallhauser.
I think it's Brianna.
Holzhauser. Brianna. Sorry, Brianna. I was so focused on the last name.
Yeah, that's fair.
I just went right through the
Right
first
over.
name.
Fair.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Welcome, Brianna.
You know, and I think we got another person. I think it's from last week. They're in the Discord. We have a channel in the Discord where people can introduce themselves.
Oh, okay.
And she introduced herself, and it was just really fun to read, like, how they find our show. You know, like,
What
people
they
are just
say.
searching therapy, and
Like
like
what they say.
the title of the show is finally paying off, Nick. Our whole theory
Okay.
is that if you
Smart
just search
move.
therapy, it might occasionally show up, and it does. But just really nice. This person wrote in their introduction that they've been in therapy for years. They've been listening to the show for a long time. Their insurance got a little complicated. They can't see a therapist, and they decided this show is becoming like their default. So they started putting therapy money into the show and sponsoring the show. And they're like, okay, I'm going to contribute to mental health somewhere. And since I'm getting something from the
awesome.
show,
You know what? I'll take it.
take a few bucks. So thank you for that
Thank
support.
you.
Thanks.
Love having it. And of course, we want to praise and worship our deity, the
Worship.
Dark Lord himself, Jim Fascia. And we'd like to thank our benevolent, revered, generous, and flagrantly pro-therapy diehards who love you all so much. They give till it hurts. The Thera partners, Dirty B and Pickett. And we want to thank our bosses, the mysterious and shrouded Illuminati members of the fan club, the Thera producers. Thank you, Jake Schneider, Myra, Robert Brownie Jr. Mint, Smitty Scoop, Ben Don, Judy Schneider, Kayla Lansbury, Malia, Leon Kassab, Mason Miller, Richard fucking Macy, Carolyn Albert, Kevin Chamberlain, Tess Miller, Sammy Scoop, Ben Stanley, Slappin' Ya Face, Sarah Smith, Adam Hathaway, Byler T, Mike Helm, Paris, Darren Cunningham, Lib, Team Monaco, Thunder Cougar, Falcon Scoop, Hey Yo, Oscar Swanrose, A Sunny Boy, Slurpy Kai Motherfucker, Sandra McWaffle, Dan Martin, Hannah Marie, Andrew Langmead, Emma Kane, Alina, Cody DeLorean Guy, Sam Cohn, and Brady Malachek. And it's a great time to join our show at patreon.com/therapy because pretty soon it's going to be Mad Marchness coming up in the next month. If you want to get in on that Pod Therapy bracket, we run it every year, and it's time for Sushi Showdown here in the host.
Sushi Showdown.
It's time to do it. Who's going to be the losing bitch this year?
Who lost last year?
I think it was Whitney.
Jim.
No, Whitney bought us all sushi.
Oh,
Was that last year?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that was a good night. That was really good sushi.
That was really good.
Not
We went
this
to
year.
Goemon, didn't we?
Oh, yeah.
Goemon? That was really nice.
Yeah, this year, assuming I don't lose, I want to go to an a la carte place.
Oh, yeah. In Japan.
Assuming I don't lose, you
Assuming I don't lose.
Let me caveat that.
If I lose, we're going to McDonald's.
They have sushi there? McDonald's
It's
sushi.
the McFish sandwich.
That's right. Just diced up and
Yeah.
rolled in rice.
Yeah.
Filet of
Filet
fish
of
for
fish.
everybody.
Yeah, filet of fish.
And if you would like to, hear this episode uncut and unedited,
And why wouldn't you?
and enjoy our spontaneous side projects, go to patreon.com/therapy. And thank you for supporting mental health.
That's all the time we got for this week's session. We want to thank our landlords, Matt Mattingly's Ice Cream Social Podcast, and thanks to those of you who contributed to our show today. We really appreciate it. Hey, remember, Pod Therapy isn't something you should keep all to yourself. Share the episode with the world. Tag us on the socials when you do. It's at PodTherapyGuys on Instagram, Threads, and Twitter, and Blue Sky. It's /PodTherapy on Facebook. And don't forget about all the extra goodies at patreon.com/therapy.
And the question queue is getting low. So
Send
those of
them
you
in.
who have thought about asking questions but have not, I'm talking to you. Now's a great time to do
Right
it. And
in.
you can do that by asking anonymously at podtherapy.net, emailing us at podtherapyguys@gmail.com, or clicking the link in the episode description. I'm Nick Tangeman.
I'm Whitney.
I'm Colonel Jim.
Thanks, and we'll see you for your appointment next week.
All right, good rehearsal, everybody. Back to one.
Good, we didn't
That's a good
record any of
run.
that.
That's
Yeah,
a good
I liked
run.
it.
Yeah.
Rehearsal.
Yeah.
Rehearsal. That's so funny.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.